Dr John Demartini, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
That is excellent. What have you been up to this morning?
Well, I've been doing podcasts, writing articles, wrote a letter to all my students around the world, had one meeting, and doing your interview, and then I'm off to ABC radios.
Jam-packed day, and then you've also got events that are running at night time?
I have some consulting and media this afternoon, then I have a presentation tonight. Then I'm off to Singapore and South Africa tomorrow morning.
Wow, jam-packed schedule. I did have friends that were at the event last night, and they were messaging me because I put a shout out on my Instagram, and they're like, I'm here right now, and you're interviewing him tomorrow. So crazy. What are you most excited about in life right now?
Well, I mean, what I love doing, which is researching, writing, traveling, and teaching, I get to do. And every time I get to do new cities and new people and new ideas, I mean, that's what I love doing. You know, when you do something you really love to do, day's kind of inspiring every day.
Yeah, do what you love and love what you do.
Yeah, I've delegated everything off my plate, so I don't have to do anything except pretty well what I love every day. Yeah. So I'm pretty inspired by that.
Amazing. So my first introduction to you was The Gratitude Effect, the book. And so since I was 18, I was in network marketing at the time, and it was always like, you got to personal development, do all that. And your name kept coming up, and the books that we were reading. I actually attended one of your events in Melbourne, I think it was 3 years ago, with a friend. So this is quite an amazing experience for me to actually sit with you and interview you. For the listeners that don't know who you are, can you give us a short wrap up of your life from where you started to where you are now and everything that you're doing?
Just quickly put a whole life. Well, I don't know what you right from the very beginning of my life, or just when I started doing what I'm doing today.
Yep.
I was 17 years old. I was living on the north shore of Oahu. I was riding big waves as a surfer. I nearly died. In a recovery of that experience, I was led to a little health food store and then a little yoga class, and I happened to be there at the right time, at the right moment, to meet an amazing teacher named Paul C. Bragg. In 1 hour, this one man with one message really got to me, and he helped me believe that I could overcome my learning problems, because I was a high school dropout and was told in first grade I'd never be able to read, write, communicate, never mind a thing, never go very far in life. And he made me believe that maybe I could overcome that and someday become intelligent, learn how to read. And that night, kind of an inspired idea came to me, and a vision of what I wanted to do, and I started working on that. And with his help, over the next 3 weeks, I gained momentum with it. And that was 47 years ago this November. And I've been on a mission to learn, research, write, travel the world, and share whatever inspired me that I know can help other people. And so I've been doing it all these years.
Amazing.
That's what I love doing.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions that I've got for you is, why do you keep doing it after so many years? Like, what keeps you going in traveling, like jam-packed schedule? Like, for some people that's very overwhelming, but for you, you keep going and you keep progressing and keep showing up and putting in the effort and the time to teach and serve. Like, what keeps you going?
Well, I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. I fill my day with the highest priority things I can do, and those things that are highest priority to me are those things that I love doing, which is researching, which I'm doing right now, writing a new textbook, writing, traveling the world, and teaching. So why do anything other than what's most important to you? It doesn't make any sense to me to fill it with things that aren't inspiring.
Yeah. Would you say they're your highest values?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My highest value is teaching. I've done 204 presentations this year already.
Whoa.
And a few hundred interviews. So I keep a very busy schedule, and that's what I love doing.
Yeah.
When you were told that you would never be able to read, never be able to write, never be able to communicate, never amount of thing, never go very far in life, and then you discover you can, it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
And then when you get to see the impact that it has on people, and you get the rewards that you receive, why would you not do it? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it. I've been blessed financially where I don't have to do anything. But this is what I would rather do. I'd rather fill my day with things that are most meaningful. People always everybody projects their values onto you and expects you to do what they think is important. And then they imagine, oh God, if I was doing what you do, I couldn't do it. Because in their values, it doesn't match. But in my values, it's really inspiring.
Yeah. So that's important for people to really focus in, or really figure out their highest values and then stay on that path without letting other people's values come into play.
Exactly. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, your day fills up with low priority distractions that don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. And nobody's going to get up in the morning and dedicate their life to your fulfillment. If you're not doing it,
Yeah.
don't expect it. And there's no reason why you can't do that. If you learn some basic things to prioritize what you do every day, to make sure that highest priority thing serves people so you have a great income doing it, and then delegate the rest away. You know, once you delegate the rest away, you're not having to do the stuff that's not inspiring to you anymore.
Yep.
So I haven't driven in 30 years. In October will be 30 years. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't drive. I have people doing that. And I don't cook. I'd stopped that 40 years ago. And so I don't do administrative banking and anything. I have it all electronically structured and done and invested and all that stuff. So all I need to do is just learn and share.
Yeah. Amazing. And it's
and
like
travel.
that convenience for you is like, I want to do what I love doing. So the rest, low priority stuff that still needs to be done, I can then outsource.
Well, if you can do something that generates something of a higher nature, income, and you can delegate things that cost less, it's silly to be doing things that devalue you when you could be doing things that help you inspire and build momentum and value you. So I went through and made a list of everything that I did in a day, personal and professional. I wrote next to it a column on what does it produce per hour. I wrote next to that a column, what is the level of meaning it has, 1 to 10. Next to that, I wrote down what it would cost to delegate that to somebody else at the same competent level. And then I looked at what I prioritized according to spread. And then I looked at how much time was actually spent. And then I reprioritized the whole thing. And then realized that, okay, I'm just going to shed layer by layer until it's all off my plate except the things that I love doing the most. And it didn't take that long to do it.
Yeah. Would that be also identifying your strengths?
Yeah.
And then sticking to those?
Well, you know, my strength is gathering information and imparting that information in an inspiring manner. And I'm great at that, so I'd rather be living in my greatness than living in my hateness, if you will.
Yeah. Would you say you're living your purpose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I wrote my mission statement when I was 17, and I've updated it 76 times with really tiny refinements of different words. It's very clear. It still brings a tear of inspiration when I read it, and if you read it, you go, by God, that's your life.
Yeah. So that mission statement, we actually do that as part of the Conscious Collective with our retreats and events. We get people to write their mission statement and like a vision statement for their life in our vision pillar. For you, was it at 17 you're saying you wrote it? Yep. So is that, for you, how you would describe it, is that just projecting into the future what you want your life to look like?
Well, it's both. It's not just a kind of a fantasy in the future. It's a feeling of presence. When you actually write something that is congruent, you feel it's impossible for you not to do. You feel it's destined. You feel it's already in motion. You feel that it's congruent with what you're already living. And you just feel it's impossible not to manifest. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just always, this is what I want to do in the future. It's like, this is what I want to continue to momentum build throughout my life. And I don't know, I just do it. If you stay with something long enough, everybody else dies out and you end up at the top. You just got to keep going.
Yeah. And how we like to focus on it, and how I even focused on it when I did my mission statement as well, is that whether you're looking at it from the side of law of attraction or what you focus on, energy goes, that's where, it grows. So when you're focusing on that mission of what it looks like and what it feels like, you can then step into that and create that because you're going to be looking for it. Therefore, it's going to come into your life.
Well, anything that's high in your values, the way your brain is set up, it has a pulvinar nuclei in the thalamus that is a gating filtering mechanism. And you have a selective biased attention for anything that's high in your values, and you have attention deficit deletion for things that are low. So you automatically see synchronous opportunities that are around you, but you overlook and pass by when you're not congruent. But the second you congruently set goals that are aligned to what's really valuable to you, you see the people, places, things, ideas, and events that help you build momentum towards a great achievement.
Yeah, totally agree with that one. What is success to you?
Well, I don't use the word success. I call it fulfillment, but because I always say success and failure are symptoms of kind of a pride, shame, illusion about your life. But achievement and fulfilling a mission is what I call fulfillment. And to me, that's doing exactly what you feel inspired to do in a way that's making a vast difference in people around you, in a way that you're having a great service and you're having a great reward, and you're doing what you love with who you love. And I think that's available to everybody, whether it's raising a beautiful family or doing a social cause or running a marathon or doing what I do, traveling the world teaching. I believe that there's no right and wrong in what that is. It's unique to the individual, and they're not here to subordinate to any other people. They're not here to minimize themselves and exaggerate other people and inject their values and cloud the clarity of their own mission. They're here to identify what's truly inspiring spontaneously from within, from them, and stick to that. And whatever that is, don't compare it to other people. That's where people miss out on loving themselves, because they compare themselves to other people instead of comparing their daily actions to their own dreams.
Yeah. And does that come from firstly knowing what your mission statement is and your highest values?
Well, in order to define that mission statement, it's wise to first define what you know. Start with what you know and let what you know grow. So I knew when I was 17, because I'd already had evidence of it, that I wanted to travel and continue traveling the world. Because when I was 9, I was riding my bicycle 35 miles in different directions. And when I was 12, I was hopping trains to different cities. When I was 13, I was hitchhiking to different cities. When I was 14, I hitchhiked across America, now I'm through Mexico. When I was 15, I ended up living and moving over to Hawaii. My parents live in Texas, but I went to Hawaii. All my life, I knew that traveling the world was part of what I was to do. I live on a ship called the World, which goes all over the world to every part of the world that there is. And that's the perfect home for me because it goes to every country. I've been to 151 countries that way. But I just knew that I wanted to travel. I knew that I wanted to learn because I had learning problems. I knew that. I knew that I wanted to share. And I knew that I wanted to write and to be able to articulate because it helped me clarify what I wanted to say. And I knew I wanted to meet amazing people and go to amazing places and do amazing things. So I just wrote what I knew. I didn't want to write fantasies. I just wanted to write what I'm absolutely certain that my life shows evidence and actions towards. And I built upon that and kept refining and rereading it and refining it and rereading it and refining it. Every time I would refine it, I'd get more clear. And I found that was momentum building.
Yeah. And one of the questions, it's supposed to be later on, but it's perfect to fit into right now, is something that a lot of people are asking, and I see on social media or in meetup groups that we do or at events, is how can I find my purpose and stuff like that? Is it literally just that, like following the things that you love doing that mean the most to you, which bring you fulfillment, and then just building upon those?
Yeah, but a mission statement is going to be a balance between self and other. There's an equity positioning of it where it's actually making a difference and contribution to somebody else, some other group, and hopefully vast numbers of people, and in a way that you are serving and getting rewarded. You're doing what you love, making a difference in what other people do. Because everybody wants to make a difference. That's universal. Even in a prison, when I've spoken to 1,000 inmates in maximum security prisons in Krugersdorp, every single person wanted to make a difference. It's innate within us to want to make a contribution, but we don't make a difference by fitting in. We make a difference by standing out. And standing out is being authentic to what's truly valuable to us. And that is something that serves vast numbers of people. Finding that niche where you're not narcissistically thinking only of yourself, not altruistically sacrificing yourself for others, but finding a blend of those two in a perfect harmony and equity, where you have equanimity within yourself and equity between yourself and others that serves others and serves yourself. Those are the things that allow you to build momentum. And a mission statement will have that, a true mission statement.
Yeah. So when you've got all of that, then when you find you've got the highest values, you've mission statement, you've got the things you know that fulfill you, how would then someone, because I know a lot of people that do know those things, then go, I don't know how to make money doing those things. And I know you've got a lot of an entrepreneurial background and you teach a lot of entrepreneurs. Is it just a matter of keep doing that, keep sharing that and contributing, and then find a way to develop that into a program or into a way that provides service of value to then exchange for money?
Well, I said at a religious organization one time, and it was quite challenging to the people. I said, if you're poor, it's because you're not caring about humanity. Because if you care about humanity, you find the needs of humanity and you find a way of serving it directly or indirectly with your own creative talents or indirectly with brokering other people's talents. And do it in such a way that it makes a difference and serves the needs of other people. When you do, you get rewarded because people value that and they'll pay for it. Yeah. And if you find that, it's about caring about humanity enough to find out what the needs are, caring about yourself enough to find out what you're inspired by, and finding out where they overlap, and then targeting that area. then you have a demand for your supply, and then you don't have that big challenge.
Yeah.
It's a key to finding where the demand meets the supply.
Yeah, and you have people needing what you want to then serve.
Yeah, if you push uphill an assumption based on your own narcissistic pursuits, you won't go very far. If you sacrifice yourself, you'll end up burning out doing things. You have to find the thing that overlaps. I happen to find it if I go and I provide and research with the biggest breadth and depth of information I can that makes a difference in people's lives, people they want to grow their lives. They want to do something amazing with their lives. If I can provide information and save them the time of doing that, it'll help them win and me win. I mean, it's the game. But whatever that product, service, or idea is that you want to bring, it's the key of caring enough about humanity to be on the same playing field. So if you build yourself up and not think about your customer, or if you build them up and not think about yourself, it doesn't sustain. Yeah. But you find a balance of those, it sustains and it grows.
What is the worst thing that has ever happened to you, and how is that the best thing that has ever happened to you?
Well, I don't think in terms of worst and best. Those are kind of moral constraints, but I do think of events that were challenging in my life. When I nearly died at 17. That was one of the greatest turning points in my life. I was a surfer, riding big waves, and got to be in surf movies and magazines and stuff at the time. And but I didn't think at that time I never thought I could actually read. I didn't read till I was 18, so I really did have a learning problem. So I just assumed I was going to be a surfer, make surfboards. I was watching Dick Brewer make surfboards and guns over there in the North Shore of Oahu, and being kind of an apprentice there. So I just assumed that was my thing. But then when I met Paul Bragg, that near-death kind of situation was a catalyst to meeting amazing guys. I was at the right time, meet the right person. And that was the turning point. So probably one of the biggest challenges with that, and one of the greatest rewards came from that. I don't believe there's a challenge without an opportunity. I don't think there's a crisis without a blessing. I don't think there's one-sided anything. That's why I'm not a moralist in the sense of best, worst, good, bad, right, wrong. I just think that there's just an event, and there's two sides to it. If you see both sides, you're fully conscious. If not, you're probably caught in an illusion. And whatever you are infatuated with or resent will occupy space and time in your mind and keep you from being present and distract you. So I try to see both sides of things, and that's why I don't normally use the labels of worst and best. But in those situations, there was the so-called crisis was the blessing.
Yeah. And I think for me, one thing, even going through the gratitude effect and having a mentor that took me through a gratitude practice, it was that allowed me to have the perspective on whatever happens, that situation is just neutral, seeing both sides of it, being conscious to it's that and that, but being grateful for that happening anyway because it's along the journey.
Well, the term objectivity means even-minded, non-partial, non-biased, not subjectively biased. And subjective is usually a biased, partial thinking. Yeah. So our animal nature, in order to survive, had to create false positives in the wild to assume that there's a predator and assume there's a prey to have the highest probability of going and capturing it or getting to eat and avoiding the predator. So we skew things in our subcortical areas with biases, but our executive center in the forebrain is involved in objectivity and balance. And when we have a balanced perspective and we're not highly infatuated or resentful, we are not fearing the loss of things or the fearing of gain of things, we're not highly stressed, we're centered. And that's when we make the most inspiring and actual, you might say, I'm not even going to say decisions, but that's where we're called into action.
Yeah. And in today's world where there's no, predators really after us and stuff like that, how can someone have that, was it objective that you were saying, objective view of seeing things for as they are? Because my generation and a lot of my friends, I see them getting caught up in things where, like, I've been going through personal development for many years, and still going through challenges that come up, but seeing them and growing through that to understand that there's two sides to everything and seeing the opportunity in them. For a lot of my friends, they see that and they go, okay, but you've done that, we haven't done that. These things are happening. The world's going this way, the world's going that way. How can they then, in simple ways, create that perspective? Is it gratitude? Or is it just disconnecting from those things that are happening?
No, I don't encourage people to dissociate. That's a bipolar condition, and if you dissociate from things. I'd rather go and probe into the mysteries of the things that you're illusioned by and find the other side by asking quality questions. The quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we ask. So if we have an event that we think is terrible, it's only because we haven't asked the question, what's the terrific in it? What's the upsides to it? Your intuition is trying to reveal to you what's unconscious. So if you're infatuated with something, you're unconscious of the downside. If you're resentful to things, you're unconscious of the upsides. Your intuition is trying to point out that unconscious side. So strengthening the intuition is learning to ask questions of where we're ignorant and seeing the side we're ignoring. So if we go in there and find out this so-called terrible event, find the terrifics in it, or this terrific, what's the terribles in it, and balance it all out, it doesn't run our lives. But if it does have a polarity to it, it runs us. So it's about asking the right questions, that's all. And that makes us consciously aware of the things we're ignoring and unconscious of. And then when we finally see both sides, we're fully conscious. We fully conscious, we act. We don't make decisions out of emotions of imbalanced perspectives. We take a calling to act and doing something that inspires us.
Yes, and I think that actually reminded me back to the event where I went and seen you. I believe it was something along the lines of having low highs and high lows. So people aren't going really, really low or extremely high. It's keeping that medium where you're conscious and you're in that state of fulfillment, but you're not letting it take you all the way down into a rock bottom.
Yeah, I learned if I don't govern myself from the inside, people have to govern me from the outside. And a master is the one that governs within, and the masses are the ones that have to be governed from out. They're controlled from the outside because they don't control them inside. Yeah. So I learned to ask questions daily and not go to bed until I've asked the question. So if I saw anything that I was proud of, I looked for the downsides. Anything I was ashamed of, I looked for the upsides. And I'd go to bed with a love of myself, and the same thing for events of other people. If I'm resentful to somebody, it's because I'm not looking at the upsides of what it's doing for me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the thing I'm resenting is the thing that is actually reminding me of something I'm feeling ashamed about that I'm too proud to admit, and they're reminding me of it, and I'm wanting to avoid it, instead of looking at what are the benefits and where do I do that. And once I ask the right questions, it just dissolves. And I do the breakthrough experiences, the program. I've done it 1,080 times. And I help people take anything that's ever happened in their life and turn it into thank you. Because everything's on the way, not in the way. Mm-hmm. Gratitude is not something you force yourself to do. Gratitude is a result of asking the right questions and seeing the hidden order in your daily chaos, and then feeling gratitude spontaneously and seeing the order. It's not, praying to some anthropomorphic deity to protect you or save you from things. Yeah. That's a sign of childishness. It's about seeing the hidden order to things and being thankful for the order and catalyzing it forward. Because nothing's going on in your life except that which is trying to get you to be authentic.
Yeah. So there was something really interesting you said in there was when you find something that you're proud of in that day, you look for the downside in that? Or so that's something that's for me surprising, because it would always be like, oh, you've seen the good thing, keep that. Like
that's the fantasy
side
of positive thinking.
Okay.
And I don't promote that. I think that's childish. I'm a firm believer in a balanced mind. You can't have a balanced physiology without a balanced mind. And people that are addicted to positive thinking and positive this and positive that and happy this and that are deluded. And so I don't promote that. I found that those are the saddest people I've got that I've worked with, because they're looking for a one-sided world. The Buddha says the desire for that which is unavailable, the positive pull of a magnet, and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable, the negative pull of the magnet, is the source of human suffering. When you finally embrace that everything in life has both sides. If I came to you and I said to you, you are always nice, never mean, always kind, never cruel, always positive, never negative, always generous, never stingy, always giving, never taking, always peaceful, never warful, always considerate, never inconsiderate, your bullshit meter would go off and go, not exactly. and you would intuitively know and you'd have this uncertainty about that, because you go, that's not really true. And if I said to you, you're always mean, you're never nice, you're always cruel, you're never kind, you're always negative, you're never positive, always wrathful, never people, and I went the other side, your bullshit meter would go off again, and intuition would say no, and you'd be thinking of the times when you're up. If I went to you and I said, sometimes you're kind, sometimes you're cruel, sometimes you're positive, sometimes you're negative, sometimes you're kind, pleasureful and painful, you would go, that's true. Yeah. You'd have certainty. So why would you go after uncertainty of one-sidedness when you can have the certainty of both sides? And to me, trying to have a loving relationship with somebody and expecting to be one-sided and trying to get rid of half of them or trying to get rid of half of you is not the way to love yourself. So I did that in my 20s. I broke through that by the time I was 30, and I gave up that at an early stage because I found that was unproductive.
Yeah, it's the yin and yang of life, like up, down.
You're not going to get it. The Taoist understanding of that was wise. You're not going to get a one-sided life, so you might as well embrace both sides of life.
Yeah.
If you do, you can love yourself. Your hero, your villain, your saint, your sinner, your virtue, your vice, all of them are going to be part of your life. If I took a videotape of anybody 24 hours a day for a 3-4 month period, and I videotaped it, I could take it to current affair and cut it up and chop it up and make a hero and a villain out of you. Mm-hmm. So I don't try to get rid of half of myself. I gave that up. I'm interested in loving my whole,
Yeah.
the whole part, which is both sides. And sometimes I'm kind, sometimes I'm cruel, sometimes I'm nice, sometimes I'm honest, sometimes I'm distant. All those things are okay. I don't try to put this fantasy and this moralistic construct of one-sidedness on myself and end up being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that we deserve to be loved for who we are in wholeness.
Yeah, and that's like the ultimate self-acceptance.
That's where true gratitude comes.
And that's like the self-acceptance of your whole self, of who you are.
A deep appreciation for your whole individual, and that way you can do the same for others.
Yeah. And
that's life, because there's no event in life that's one. That's why I don't pursue success. I don't pursue one-sidedness. I found the second you think you're successful, that means you have a small vision. You actually think you've arrived and you're on your way down because you're arrogant. I like to think of it as I'm a man on a mission. I'm here to be grateful for my life and see the things as they are, not as I fantasize them to be, and then get upset when they don't match my fantasy. I found that it's wiser to just love and appreciate life in its wholeness, both sides.
I love that. Wow. So much powerful value in there. What is the best advice you've ever been given?
Well, again, I don't know about best and worst, but I would just say that
Most impactful.
learning how to discern what is really truly priority to you is wise. And I have on my website, drdemartini.com, a value determination process that's complimentary free. People can take advantage of it. But going through that exercise and defining what it is that really your life is purely demonstrating spontaneously about what you're committed to, and finding that out so you're not fighting yourself, trying to be somebody you're not, but honoring yourself and allowing yourself to be the magnificent being that you're spontaneously called to do based on what your values are. That to me is one of the most significant things a person can do. It's an old Delphic oracle: be thyself, know thyself, be thyself, love thyself. It's true.
Yeah, amazing. And what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
You're on track. Thank God. Keep going. You know, I don't look back with regrets. I don't think that there's ever a mistake. The only time I think there's a mistake in our life is when I compare my actions to somebody else's values that I've let infiltrate my thinking. And the only time I think other people make a mistake is when I project my values onto them and expect them to live in my values. There's no mistakes in our own values. There's only mistakes when we cross value system. So I don't find that productive. I don't go walking around with regrets and look back, oh, I messed up here. I should have done this. Yep. I don't hear, in my head, there's not shoulds, ought tos, supposed tos, got tos, have tos, and musts. I don't live that way. Because I live by priority. I know my values. I stick to those. I find them more productive.
And if you were to do that, you're taking away the power that you have now to then create the life that you want, because you're bringing that with you.
You're living deontologically by duty of other people and giving accountabilities to others to direct your life. The voice and the vision on the inside's got to be louder than opinions on the outside if you want to master your life and make a difference in the world.
Yeah, and one of the questions that one of the members of the Conscious Collective sent in was she just moved to a new place. She just moved to Bali, Indonesia. And she asked, how can you move to a new place and if the vibration is low and you're surrounded by unhappy people, negative people, what can you do to not allow that to affect you? So maybe that could also be a situation where they're at work, maybe they've gone to a new job and there's some people that are unhappy, negative. Is it knowing who you are on the inside, knowing your values, all of that, and staying true to you and not worrying about anyone else? Or
it sounds like a great opportunity for business.
Yeah.
That means that there's a whole lot. It's like the old story about the shoe salesman, right? There are two different attitudes. One guy goes in there and goes, nobody in this country even wears shoes. How are we going to sell shoes here? The other one comes in and says, nobody's wearing shoes here. We can sell those shoes to everybody. If you're around people that have that means you have the opportunity to inspire them by an exemplification of how to live and inspire them to opportunities. I mean, you could go in, that's a business opportunity. Yeah. Whenever you see a challenge in society, that's opportunity for business to make a difference in people's lives. So I don't see that as, if you're outer directed and you're expecting other people to feel a certain way for you to feel a certain way, then you miss the boat.
Yeah.
You're here to if you live according to your own values and don't compare yourself to others, but compare your daily actions to your own highest values, you do amazing things, and you inspire other people, and you draw them to you, and you can then impart on them things you've learned and inspire their lives, and that's a source of income to you. You could make a difference. You could be a leader in that area. It's an opportunity for leadership.
Yes, I love that, and especially that can go through to, I think right now, a lot of the talk is about social media and how other people are affected by what other people think of them when they post something or something like that. But with that advice, it's when you know you're doing it out of your values that are aligned with your mission, Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's yours.
Well, if you're not being crucified, you're probably not doing much. If you're not on purpose. If you're doing something original, you're going to be ridiculed by traditions and conventions and mores of other people.
Yeah.
That's normal. If you're not getting that, you're fitting in. And don't expect to leave a legacy fitting in.
So what if you are doing something that's on mission, but you're not being crucified for it?
You're probably not contacting enough people to go out and make a difference.
Okay.
You're probably not doing. When I had the opportunity to, from Russia, do a television show for an hour for 250 million people. And I got all kind of responses. It's just all over the place. And, if you add them all up, you'll find out you'll have supporters and challengers balanced.
Yep.
So I don't pay much attention because I know that for every person that's wanting to attack me, there's another person saying, hey, great job and everything. I don't pay attention to that. I don't try to get addicted to one. It only hurts when you're addicted to praise. Criticism only hurts when you're addicted to praise.
Yeah.
Criticism is actually an essential component of growth. The second you get cocky and above who you are, you're automatically needing criticism to get you back to who you are. Mm-hmm. Whenever you're below who you are, you're needing praise to get you back to who you are. So it's just forcing you to get back to being who you are. Mm-hmm. And not attached to it, and just see that it's just giving you feedback.
Yes. What is one change people can make in their life that would have the biggest impact on improving their life?
Well, improving, again, is a moral language. So I always think that I tell people in my breakthrough experience, this is not a self-improvement course because you're already magnificent the way you are. And my job is to make you see it and become aware of it. So it's more of the asking the right questions to see the hidden order in your daily chaos so you can be grateful for it the way it is, which gives you the power to transform it by being inspired. So it's not about, I need to fix this and I need to get rid of this part of me and I need to change this and escape this. I don't find that very productive. It's about looking and finding the hidden order in life, the hidden balance that's there. Because I've had people come in and go, my mama, I had this lady say, well, my mother wasn't there for me. She abandoned me when I was 2. And I said, fantastic. So who became your mother? Well, I didn't have a mother. I said, I know, but nothing's ever missing. Who emerged as a mother figure? And she goes, that's interesting you say that. My aunt took and raised us a bit. Who else? My grandmother stepped in. Who else? Well, my best friend. I hung out at her place a lot, and her mother kind of guided me. And who else? Now I think about it. When I got to be about 6, my teacher started becoming like a mother figure. I said, what was the benefit of having all those mother figures in a diversified form instead of just your own mother? She said, I never asked that question. I just assumed I missed out because my therapist said I missed out, and the reason why I'm all screwed up is because I didn't have this mother figure. And I said, well, get out of the shrink and let's get to stretching. And I said, so if your mother had been there, what would have been the drawback? At first she said, well, there wouldn't be any. I'd be happy. And I said, well, that's delusional. If your mother had been there, there'd be new sets of challenges. What would be the challenges her mother actually lived there? And then finally she said, my mother had bipolar condition. It would have been chaotic. She wasn't able to provide for us. She actually allowed me to be with people that could take care of me. She started crying. She started to be appreciative. I said, time to thank your mother. She gave you an opportunity. You had a diversity of people. What was the benefit of all these other mother figures? She says, I excelled in school. And I did well in that, and I found out what I wanted to do, and I got really great at it. I said, did you thank your mother, or did you think your mother left you? She said, I've been running this story that I was abandoned, but the real truth is that I was gifted to have a more mothering factor than I could have had by my own mother. I said, well, mothers aren't going to give up children unless they think there's going to be more advantage to the children and themselves at the time. So your mother obviously cared about your time. She goes, wow, I never thought about it, just bawled. I said, seeing the hidden order in life is far more powerful than trying to fix things and avoid things and blame things and stuff like that. You're all outer directed instead of inner called.
Yeah. So in that process there, you went through, I guess, taking away the positives of that situation, of what benefits did you get from having all those different mentors in that situation. And then you then flipped it into what were the, would have been the challenges.
I took the challenges of she had a fantasy that if I had a mother, I would be happy. That's why addiction to happiness is probably the most saddening thing you'll ever do.
And if she kept that, it would have stayed with her the whole life.
She would have been angry and victim and blaming and all this stuff, and then angry and then all kind of stuff, and recreated that dynamic. If she goes in there and finds out how her mother not being there, how that was a blessing, who took on that role, what's the benefits of the people that have actually done that instead of the fantasy, and crack the fantasy and appreciate what it is. When you appreciate what it is, it doesn't become baggage that runs your life. You actually don't store that in your subconscious mind and make autonomic reactions. You just start to now go, you know what? Whatever happens to me serves me. I'll give you an example, just a crazy example. I had to, and this is probably shocking to some people, but this is just who I am, when I was 14 years old, I left home. I left home at 13, but I was hitchhiked out to California when I was 14. When I got to California at the beaches of Huntington Beach, California, I was sitting there watching the sun go down. I was sitting on the edge of my surfboard, and I thought, I made it here. I'm going surfing, man. And all of a sudden, this 27-year-old, beautiful, blonde, strawberry blonde chick came up to me, and she said, "Are you a runaway?" And I turned to her, and I looked up, and I went, "Whoa." I said, "Not exactly. My parents dropped me off on the freeway and told me to go surfing. Go and live your dream." And she said, "Well, where are you staying?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to stay on the beach." "Well, you can't stay on the beach here. You have to go down to the cliffs to sleep. It's about 3 miles down." I said, "Well, I guess I'll walk down there." And she said, "Well, do you need a place to stay?" And I went, "Hell yeah." I said, "Yeah." And I'm 14 years old, and I'm kind of older for my age at the time because I'd been street smart kind of thing. So I stayed with this chick. And, she was pretty progressive and everything else. And, she made me some food. She washed my clothes. She was acting like part of a mother. But in the evening, she came up and she made love with me. And, I can't complain. And I was doing pretty good on that. Now, today that would be illegal. But I have no problem with that. In the process of doing that, I realized that what she had is she had had a son take away from her. Her husband left her and took the son. She didn't have any money, so she had to go out and get jobs, and she was making bathing suits to try to make money to get her son back. Her son was 4 going on 5, and the father was older. And if you put the father's age and the son's age together and divide by 2, that was my age. And if you took my average girlfriend's age and my mother's age and put them together, divide by 2, that was her age. She was playing the role of my mother and girlfriend, and I was playing the role of her son and husband. So I watched that, and I was very aware of that when I was 14, living on the streets. And I thought, nothing's missing. It just changes form. And that was one of the great lessons I got living on the streets, that nothing is changing, nothing is missing. It just changes form. And people go around and think they're missing things instead of seeing the new form and honoring the form it is and adapting to the form and going with it and experiencing it. And that's been a great lesson for me. So I don't come around to the idea that I missed out on anything. I just looked at the form that it was in. Mm-hmm. And then I look at the benefits of the form that it was compared to the fantasy that I thought it should have been. Yeah. I find myself way more inspired by that. And I teach people that so they don't sit there and run their stories and run their little victim stories. Victims of history instead of masters of destiny, most people live. And they can be masters of destiny by seeing things on the way, not in the way.
Yeah. And would that be being in the now, right? Like seeing what's coming up? Identifying what it is and then going through that process.
And balancing the equation. Yeah. When you see things in a balanced mind, your heart opens. I've taken 250,000 people through the breakthrough experience, and every time I balance their mind, there's tears of gratitude and there's appreciation. They see the hidden order and they realize that there's nothing to fix. There's something to appreciate. And from that state, when you appreciate what you have, you get more to be appreciative of.
What does it mean to be conscious?
That. To be fully conscious is when you judge something and you infatuate with it, you're conscious of the upsides, you're unconscious of the downsides. When you're resentful to something and are trying to avoid it, you're conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides. When you love something, you're conscious of both sides. Yeah. And you're reflective because whatever you see in them, you realize you have in your own life. Nothing's missing in you, nothing's missing in them. Yeah. So looking deeper beyond the facades and the personas and looking for the human being within yourself and others is liberating. So a fully conscious individual sees those and is not trying to change others relative to your values or changing you relative to other people's values, but to honor what your mission is and fulfill it by living by priority and honor them and help them do theirs. If you do that, you help other people get what they want to get in life, you get what you want to get in life.
Yeah, so instead of trying to fix, try focusing on finding who you are and the lessons and everything.
Yeah, I think of a fix as something like a drug addict.
Trying to get that high.
I'm not trying to. People don't need fixing. Yeah. They just need to be aware of the magnificence of what's happening in their life. Because as long as they're addicted to praise, they're going to end up being hurt by criticism. As long as they're addicted to protection, they're going to end up with violence and aggression. Whatever they're addicted to that keeps them juvenilely dependent, they attract the opposite to break their addiction to make them grow. Because we grow by having challenges that inspire us, not by making our lives easy.
The last question to wrap everything up. What impact do you want to have on people, the community, and the world?
Well, I want to continue to go out and do what I love doing, which is researching and sharing. And I've been blessed to do it to over 5 billion people. So I keep doing that. I do it every day. Yeah. And I keep a metric on all the things that I set out to do since I was 17. And I watch the metrics be filled. And I don't see any reason why anybody can't go and do whatever they want. I mean, it'd be impossible to convince me that a person can't live an inspired life. I mean, I've seen people from all different walks of life, and I've seen what happens when they start to apply the principles that stand the test of time and what it does and how they build momentum and achieve things. I've seen people run their story and become victims of their history all the time. And that's their creation.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. I want to acknowledge you for the human that you are, the service that you give to the world. For me, impacting my life at 18, on Facebook, I've actually got following on you. So every time I go on Facebook, your stuff comes up, which I think is a great thing to do for social media. Follow the people that inspire you, that have information. But yeah, everything that you're doing, the time you've spent with me today, the value that you've given, I really appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me into this room and to spend time with you.
No, thank you. You helping me, we're helping each other.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, doing what we can to make a difference.
Yeah.
But just know that whoever's out there, no matter what you've done or not done, you're worthy of love. And if you compare yourself to others, instead of comparing your daily actions to your own dreams, you'll probably miss out on your own magnificence. Mm-hmm. And the magnificence of who you truly are is far greater than any fantasies you'll ever impose on yourself by comparison.
Wow. What a way to wrap it up. Well, Dr. John Demartini, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if anyone's loved this podcast, got any value from this, please share it around, tag a friend into this who needs to hear this stuff, or you think would like to hear this stuff. And as always, you can contact us on our socials and Dr. John www.drjohndemartini for all events. And
yeah, it's just drdemartini.com.
drdemartini.com for the freebie that you were talking about for the values.
For the value learning how to determine your values to help you be more clear. It's complimentary. And just there's an educational website. You could go on there and live the rest of your life learning.
Amazing. Well, you have fun touring Australia, and can't wait to speak to you next time.
I look forward to it.
Take care, everyone. Peace.